Welcome to another episode of Exploring the Vintage NFT Space podcast with Zero G. Today, I'm excited to have with me Rare Pepe OG artist Django Bits. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Zero G. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, really looking forward to talking to you. You've got quite the impressive portfolio of cards, so definitely looking forward to going over those. But before we get started with your cards and art, why don't you tell me the story about like how you learned about crypto and what compelled you to actually make your first purchase, like push you over that edge?
Yes, so I learned about Bitcoin in 2011. It was probably some kind of blog I've read, and I was really fascinated by what it is. And I thought, wow, very easy online payments, first of all. And then I thought, wow, no middleman, quite nice. And I really thought that's a revolutionary thing. And at the time, I wasn't thinking too much about like financial markets or central banks and stuff. I just thought it would be very nice to have like an uncensorable way of moving money, because I was always a proponent of the free internet, or the real free internet that shouldn't be censored. So that was the first thing. And then, of course, I wanted to try it. And I figured out how to buy some and was able to buy a couple of Bitcoin for like $20. So maybe two for $7 each or something like that. And experimented with it, ran the Bitcoin client. And then this journey started, right?
I know, right?
Yeah. I guess you know then what was going on later on. So this was 2011. Then some of the first clones of Bitcoin came up. Meanwhile, I was trying to mine Bitcoin. So I bought some miners, or ordered some miners, like the butterfly miners, and waited for them for a year to come,
Oh,
because
wrecked.
those guys were mining themselves in the meantime. So I figured out how to mine on a pool, and I did some Bitcoin mining as well at the time, but very limited, very small, more out of curiosity. So yes, that was 2011. And then I followed a lot of these new projects that were coming up, like Namecoin and stuff. But I was always interested in projects which had some special edge, which had some features that other chains didn't have, because some of them were simple clones, like Litecoin probably, which had some different parameters, but was just a clone. But I was interested in stuff that could do other things, like Namecoin, where you could save value pairs. And so I experimented with Namecoins, which was very fascinating, because you could replace a centralized DNS system and stuff like that. Tried Frycoin, a very bizarre coin from an economically game perspective. And then, yeah, so slowly moved on. And at some point, Ethereum came along, was very fascinated on what you could do. And in the same time, I was looking at games on the blockchain. And one of the first games on the blockchain was Spells of Genesis, which had NFTs,
Yeah.
probably some of the first NFTs, right? And those were on Counterparty, like Rare Pepe. So I was very interested in how this works, bought some cards, couple of, played the game, and then tried to figure out how this minting and this NFT thing works on Counterparty. And luckily, this counter wallet that we have is very simple to use, and everybody could just mine a token. So I minted a token, I'd say. I minted a token, just the classic A with a number token first,
Yeah.
and then was very fascinated about that. And one day in the Bitcoin Talk forum, where I was hanging around in the altcoin section to see if there is anything new, interesting coming up, I've seen a post from Mike, the inventor of Rare Pepe on Counterparty, which said Rare Pepe cards on Counterparty, and I was quite fascinated. So I've seen the Rare Pepe meme in the past, but I didn't have too much knowledge about it. And I was looking it up, and I realized that there was this game with Rare Pepe where people would post their Windows Paint drawn Pepe pictures into some forum and then tell everybody that it's very rare and you shouldn't steal it. And there was this one guy before Rare Pepe went to blockchain, which sold a Rare Pepe on eBay. And when the price exploded because everybody got crazy about it, eBay removed that picture. So I realized, okay, there was this issue with rarity on Rare Pepe. And I also knew by then that the NFT thing will solve this rarity issue. And I thought this is a very nice idea, very good. And so shortly after, I think 3 days after, the first Rare Pepe was minted by Mike, I minted another Rare Pepe, which was called KARPEPELES. And I posted it to the Bitcoin Talk forum. And they said, wow, here a new Rare Pepe. And I sent a couple of KARPEPELES to Mike and said this was for the Rare Pepe Foundation, which didn't really exist, but everybody was having foundations back then. So I sent him a couple of KARPEPELES. But then Mike didn't want that KARPEPELES, and he stopped the thread on Bitcoin Talk and created a new one and accused me of like hijacking his idea. And yeah, and that was my first encounter with Rare Pepe.
Oh man, that's kind of rough because you were just trying to contribute to the cause, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I just I didn't even ask, I just minted.
Yeah.
But I thought the idea was so good, so I just thought with which Rare Pepe could I come up? Because at the time there was just the first one, Rare Pepe, the Nakamoto one. And then there was a shitcoin card, the second one. And I thought, wow, the possibilities are endless. And this crypto world is like huge for memes. So yeah, I was just fascinated and wanted to mint my own. Yeah, so I didn't think too much at the time why I would do that, or yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was just having fun back then anyway, right?
Yeah, yes. So this was actually my first encounter then with Rare Pepe.
And that's now part of series zero of fake rares, right?
Yes, exactly. So after the fake rares, because KARPEPELES, which is, by the way, the story of Mark Karpeles, the founder of Mt. Gox, a Japanese Bitcoin exchange, which went belly up in 2014 with some of my Bitcoin as well.
Oh no.
So the picture on KARPEPELES is Karpeles, Mark Karpeles. And it was just the story that I wanted to share or was part of, and so it was in my mind. And yeah, KARPEPELES is now the first one in the zero series of fake rares, because it never made it into Rare Pepe. I even tried. So if you want, I can tell you the whole story of KARPEPELES.
Sure.
Okay, so I then realized that I mean, Mike didn't want this KARPEPELES around, and I did forget about it for a couple of days, and then was curious again to see how this evolves, and had seen a Telegram chat, and I haven't ever used Telegram before, so I created an account, went to this chat room and said, hey, what about KARPEPELES? Can't this is my Rare Pepe. And I was told that By the way, in the Bitcoin Talk forum, Mike already said that this was not a rare one. It was not certified. And I think it was then when I entered the chat room on Telegram that somebody else said it was not scientifically certified rare. But at the time, the Rare Pepe scientists didn't exist. So it was probably because of KARPEPELES that they started to exist.
I
So
see.
yeah. And then I was kicked out of the chat at some point. But I then decided to get a new account and to join again. I didn't ever talk again about KARPEPELES. I just created some more Pepes and I became part of this Rare Pepe community, which was very small at the time, probably 20 to 30 people. And then I started minting other Pepes there. But the story with KARPEPELES is really that I think at the time, these first two Rare Pepe cards, they were both created by Mike. And if you scroll way back in the chat, you see that at the time when I minted KARPEPELES, nobody else was minting Rare Pepes and nobody did mint Rare Pepes. They were asking Mike if we
I
could
see.
have a Rare Pepe with this topic or that topic, but it was not a community thing at the time. And at
Yeah, it was
some
just.
point, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say it like you posting that and minting that probably started Mike thinking about having other people like how
Yes, I think that's the thing. And there's also a post from Mike in around that time where he says, I think people start minting Rare Pepes or want to mint Rare Pepes. And to my knowledge, that was a bit when this whole scientist thing started. And Joe Looney once also confirmed that to me, that this could be the case. But I mean, everybody has its own history or it's his own version of history. So that's mine with KARPEPELES, that it was like uh, there's this video on YouTube. It's called How to Start a Movement. And you see a guy dancing in front of a stage at some kind of an open air festival. And he's dancing quite crazy and everybody's looking at him, but he's not ashamed. He just does his thing. And then the second guy joins in and dances along. And it's just then when it kicked off a bigger crowd to join. And in this video, it's very nicely explained. It says, once the second guy joins in, everybody realizes that it's quite cool and they could decide on which side they want to stand. And for in my reality, KARPEPELES is that second follower who probably, maybe, kicked off this movement. Maybe it would have happened anyway, right? So I don't want to give it too much of significance.
that's amazing. I never knew the story behind that, but I mean, again, to get involved so quickly, that's also pretty incredible too. Yeah, it
Yeah,
must be an honor to have that now officially recognized in fake rares.
yes, it is. So I was very happy that at least there was a place to put it in. And so to speak, as it was the first one which was not accepted by Mike, it's also the first fake Rare Pepe. I mean, historically, the first Rare
Yeah,
Pepe, fake Rare Pepe. The description of Rare Pepe tells the story of it, by the way. I did change it at some point in the past, and there's also some links to some posts on Telegram and Bitcoin Talk.
yeah, cool. Yeah, that's fascinating. Before we go into the rest of your cards, I was meaning to ask you too. What was your background in art? Because I mean, some of these like for an amateur, I think you did a really good job.
Yes, so I wouldn't, I never considered myself to be an amateur, right? Sorry, I never considered myself to be an artist. because I think an artist has a lot more dedication than I have and spends a lot more time on developing his passion and his language and all of that, and puts a lot more thoughts into his stuff than I probably did. But from the technical standpoint, I was always, I played a lot with Photoshop and with Windows Paint as a child, and with GIMP, which I
Yeah.
used to create all of my rare pepes, by the way. And so technically, I know quite a bit on how you could create cards and like do this collage like cards. So my cards are more or less different pieces of other pictures put together. It's more like a collage, right?
Yeah.
And even the GIF based rare pepes, they are made in GIMP. So they
Okay.
are mostly picture per picture
Oh, I see.
done usually. Yeah,
So you're
usually
doing
there's
layers
some.
to achieve that?
Yes, exactly. So there's some
Okay.
layers, and the moving parts in the GIFs are usually from some video that was then transformed into a GIF, and then if you import it in GIMP, it will be um, one slide or one frame per layer, and then you can
Oh,
start to
okay.
manipulate those layers, right? Yes, so that's it. But I mean, I am interested in art, but more like as an observer or like as a consumer. Um, so, and of course, I'm also interested in memes. That's probably even a bigger interest I have, because it's still a miracle for me how some of these things just blow up and everybody knows these memes and they go around the world and they have their life by themselves, right? And Rare Pepe is, of course, probably one, if not the most famous of these memes.
It is extraordinary how, how, memes are really powerful, and um we've seen how that, like, they can spread faster and more quickly, and become more permanent than the traditional, like, top down broadcast control style messaging, which I think is
Yes.
really fascinating.
Yes, and they can transport really a lot. So you can have a single picture or probably a picture with a word, and it transports a whole lot more, right? It's could be political meme or whatever, but usually they are extremely deep. So I like these concentrated meanings that memes have, and throughout their existence, they even collect more of that meaning and can be used for anything in the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. So after Carpepolis was kind of like sidelined, and you joined with the new alt account, so you decided to just get back to cranking out Pepe's once they were accepting third party submissions.
Yes, exactly. I think at the time they already had this process in place where you could submit by paying a little fee in counterparty tokens, and you could just submit them. And if they were like not completely off, they were usually accepted, right? I also had one or two which were not accepted. So one of them is Nude Pepe. And of course, he's nude, but I mean, it's a green frog. It's a green comic frog who is nude. You, you don't even see extremities on that one. And this nude Pepe, he appears in my Rare Pepe from Hell card because there's some Pepe-like figure in the background on this Pepe from Hell card. And in his hands, he's holding that nude Pepe card,
Oh,
which
I
was
see
like
that. Yeah,
censored, right? So
that's
it's
cool.
you see like a disco ball on the left of that nude Pepe card and then just like a nude Pepe that somebody else had drawn. I was just putting it together, honestly. So it was probably also artistically not that revolutionary.
Well, let's start with your HEISENPEPE. That was like when I got started collecting, that was one of the first ones I got because I thought it was just super dope. I watched the Breaking Bad and I thought that was an amazing series, but I also just thought that I don't know, something about the way you like captured it with the background and all the nice little elements too, like that little beaker, and the hat and everything. I don't know. I just thought it turned out like really well.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, I was also a big fan of Breaking Bad. I still consider it one of the best TV shows. And I was just fascinated and was thinking about what kind of card could I create, and then had this idea to create this one. Um, Honestly, when I've seen other cards later from other people, I thought it lacks a bit of depth. Like it has not too much of a meaning, right? But everybody knows the figure. And I'm sometimes surprised that people react so positively to that card. It's probably because so many people love the TV show, right?
Well, I also think there's something really endearing about the way you pepified his face too, man. It always
Yeah,
like, man,
maybe.
yeah, it's really catching. Like I said, it also has like a really nice level of detail on it too.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the GIMP levels, right? So try to create a background which somehow fits to it. And yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So when you submitted HEISENPEPE, I'm assuming you didn't have any problems this time with your new alt account, right?
No, no, I didn't. And I really liked the community and the atmosphere in the chat. So I have no hard feelings.
Yeah, so HEISENPEPE was season two, and it looks like you had multiple cards in season two. You also had Leo Pepe scam. What's the
Yes.
story with that one?
So Leo Pepe scam is so there was at the time there was Leo coin, and I think it was established in the UK. These lions in the back of my card are the logo of that chain, and this person there in the middle is like the founder of this Leo coin. And Leo coin had quite some, they made quite some noise. So they had like huge marketing, and you've seen it here and there, but essentially it was, or probably still is, I have no clue if it still exists, but it's like a multi-level marketing scheme. So
Okay.
people bring other people to the game, and they earn more the more people they bring to the table, right? And of course, the guy on top, he earns most, and that's his name, and that's his face there. And I can't remember his name, Andrew something. Um, I don't know, but that's the guy. And nobody was calling it a scam, even though it was pretty obvious for me that it's just a multi-level marketing scam. So I thought, let's put that into a Pepe card. Yes, and I don't know why it came out like this with this mask on his head. So he's having like a paper mask with a rare Pepe face on his head that he could pull down or put up. Yeah, so it was a bit too ridicule, the whole thing, right? And if you've seen the videos from these Leocoin shows or multi-level marketing shows, it was fascinating to see how many like older people they attracted and how many women they attracted in a space where there were not too many women at the time. So it was really a multi-level marketing scheme.
I mean, you got to hand it to them. I mean, they like like applying like what works with like MLMs are. I mean, they're still all over the place. So of course, like the easiest path to success is just adopting that MLM scam style to just using, the clothing of technology to make it appear as if it's something new. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and at the time there were already a lot of these altcoins which were just
Mhm.
trying to make quick bucks by selling their worthless coins to somebody, and they like combined the two, right? So they have this classical crypto Ponzi. I create my own altcoin scheme and then combined it with the multi-level marketing scheme. So yeah, that was something.
Yeah. There are definitely no shortage of scams back then. Um,
Yeah.
I never followed that one, but I was aware of a bunch of other ones. But
I think they really most of the people who were into different blockchains and stuff and who were following it, they were not into this Leocoin thing because they immediately would have told you that it's a scam.
yeah,
But it was the time when other people had realized there is something like cryptocurrency, you could make money on it, and they had a completely different target audience, I think, than many of the other projects and
yeah.
chains.
I mean, maybe the reason and I may have seen it on like Coin Market Cap or something back then, but I never like read into it. But that may also be the marketing was probably more specific towards Europeans or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and your next one was Hillary Pepe, which yeah, you want to tell the story on that one?
Yeah, Hillary Pepe. That was the time when this was during the Trump campaign when in 2016 when Trump campaigned to become president, and there were some Trump supporters who were throwing Pepe memes all over the place, and some of them were yeah, you could tell they were like quite it was quite right-wing ideology. Some of them were racist. Some of these memes they were using. And then at the time, I think it was the Hillary Clinton campaign or probably the Anti-Defamation League or something like that, which said this Pepe meme thing is racist. It should be banned from everywhere. And I thought, how ridiculous is that? So for us Europeans, I mean, I'm a European, I'm from Switzerland, and for us, this perception was never there. We never like had seen Pepe in the context of like already politics or right-wing ideology. And at the time of this debate, the Clinton followers were all over the place and telling that Pepe was racist. And of course, a meme itself cannot be racist. It depends on who uses it in which way, right? So a meme is more or less a mirror of society, and it will be whatever people want it to be. So I created this card here. I think the text on it is a bit garbage, but it's just that Hillary says Pepe must die, he's racist. And Trump says, come on, that's hilarious. I'm the racist here. So maybe that text is a bit dumb, but it was just like born in the moment of doing it. And there was a huge debate then in the US if this Pepe meme is racist. And there was CNN and Fox, everybody telling their opinions about this topic, right? So this is the card that bakes this moment into an NFT.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember the drama around that back then. Yeah, I mean, um, and that's one thing that I think one reason they were taking that approach was also just because I think the memeing was there was some offensive stuff, but I just think that the memeing was actually uh, working in the sense where it was getting a lot of younger people engaged in the you know
Yes, I think that's, yeah. I think that that was probably one of the points. And I think at the climax, it was one of the sons of Trump who was posting something on Twitter with a Rare Pepe meme. And it was probably then when the others reacted and when it blew up. And of course, how would something like that end? Of course, there were even more Rare Pepes around after the Clinton campaign made it famous, right? So probably they shot themselves in their own feet.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and your next card was Marvin Pepe. You want to tell
Yeah,
the
so
story more?
Marvin Pepe is from the Hitchhiker's Guide so Marvin Pepe is how do you say? It's like a ode to the Hitchhiker's Guide of the Galaxy, a book that most nerds in the space have read, with a famous number 42, which is the answer for all questions. And Marvin is the depressive robot in that book, or also in the movie. So he's a robot who was living like an eternity, I think, and he's very depressed. And that's just like a little homage to Marvin, the paranoid and sad robot. And in my case, it's Pepe, the paranoid frogbot. And I think the text is readable, but it's just 2 lines of the book, some poem that Marvin is telling. And
Okay,
it
yeah,
was,
it's
I'm
just hard
sorry,
to read because of the type you used. It's just kind of hard
yeah,
to, yeah.
it's some kind of futuristic types, font, right? And it was it was the first GIF card I did. It's not the first GIF Rare Pepe cards that was minted, but it's one of the first. And of course, only 42 were issued, so couldn't be different, right? And luckily, at the time, it was still possible to mint below 100 cards. So this was one of them. But I sold nearly all of these cards for very cheap at the time. At some point, I wanted to buy me a little synthesizer to make music, and I found somebody who bought like 7 or 8 of these cards, and I could buy that little machine. And by now, I could probably buy 120 of those machines at today's value of Marvin Pepe. I still have one, but it's currently, you could currently buy it. It's on OpenSea. Very
Cool.
rare.
Yeah, yeah. The low supply cards or early low supply cards are definitely sought after.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your next one is actually a three supply,
Yes,
right? The
so
Pep.
the next one is my rarest, you could say. Only 3 exist, and it's called Pepe al-Assad. It's about the dictator from Syria, the country in the Middle East, who at the time was fighting a really brutal war against his own population, and was supported by Putin, his body, that's also on the card. And um, yeah, I wanted to create a card for that guy. And as the early Rare Pepe cards were still like thought to be some sort of game cards for a card game, even though nobody knew how it would work, but they had these like elements on it, or numbers of items, or PowerPoints, or whatever. And this card, the Pepe al-Assad card, has like a little head of Putin there, and it has a description that says barrel bomb bonus. If you play this card, you lose 90% of all the rare Pepe assets you own. That was like to say that he was waging a war against his own population. So he's throwing barrel bombs on his own people. And if you play this card, you would basically lose your rare Pepes. But if you can combine this card with one of the very rare Putin Pepes, No Fox Putin, or Red Putin Pepes, very nice cards, not by me, but very nice and very rare cards. And the idea was that if you could combine it with one of these Putin cards, then you would win 90% of your enemy's rare Pepes assets. So that's more like, was like the idea for a game, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Unfortunately, I sold all of these Pepe al-Assad cards. I think the highest price I scored for one of these was 30 counterparty uh, at the time where it was really not too much. And I've seen at some point that in 2022, one of these cards was bought from a dispenser for 18 Bitcoin, which was like 781,000 at the time. And I was really surprised if who bought that card. And sometimes I tell myself, maybe it's Assad himself who bought the card. Who
That would
knows?
be only too fitting, wouldn't it?
Yes. Maybe Putin has a little Rare Pepe card collection as well. Who knows?
Yeah, he might have a full set of the Putin Pepes.
Yeah, they were just recently sold, I've seen as well, and they were quite expensive too. So like a luxury good would fit well with him.
Yeah, I think in the last year I've seen most of the Putin Pepes have traded hands, and
Yes,
I think most of them were in the range of like between 30 to 70,000 a piece.
yes, one was quite cheap, I think. I mean, cheap, yes, cheap. One was like 10,000 and yeah, but was still out of scope for me at the time. And my next card here is the Series 4 card 44, which is called Rare Pepe. And this is a citation of a different meme that exists for a very long time, and it's called the Ermagerd meme, which showed a girl which was showing, I think, certain books. So it's a photo that was circulating through the internet for a long time and was used for other stuff, to tell other stories, right? And I thought it would be nice to like have it baked into the Rare Pepe to do some sort of meme crossover here. And on this card, you see this girl holding some of the Rare Pepe cards, some of my Rare Pepe cards. And she says, Ermagerd Rare Purpose, because she has this Ermagerd language became a meme by itself. And
Oh, okay.
there are generators in the internet where you can like paste any text and it will reply to you with the same, it will translate it to this Ermagerd language. And if you read the
Okay.
description in the card carefully and try to just listen to the sound, then you will also understand what it says.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. So there's this Ermagerd translator for this kind of language, and that's what helped me to translate it to Ermagerd.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
cool. And
So that
yeah, and you kind of talked about the Pepe from Hell a little bit. Did you want to fill in the rest on that one?
yeah, so that's probably just short. So it's just I just thought, yeah, it would be nice to have a Pepe from Hell. And of course, the issuance should be 666 there. Otherwise, it's probably not too special. So it has only this nude Pepe hidden story, but I don't think there's much more. Can't remember if the text says something that changes on the bottom.
It looks like it changes, but at least from what I'm looking at, it looks illegible, you know?
Yes, it's mirrored. So one frame is mirrored, I think. One frame of the GIF is mirrored. At least the text is will be mirrored in one frame. The flames around it are just like repeating back and forth. Yeah. And
Oh,
then
that's cool.
there's To the Moon Pepe. That was series 11. And there's quite some of them. And we already have the year 2017. And 2017 was one of the years when, towards the end of 2007 year, we were at the peak of one of the biggest hype cycles we have seen. There were crypto kitties around and stuff like that. And I think at the time also Rare Pepe had like a peak in its own hype cycles, because we had seen a couple of these Rare Pepe hype cycles in the past as well, when suddenly a lot more people come in. And I think it was 2017 where also Rare Pepe was discovered by a lot of people. And for the first time, these cards were really traded for a lot of money. I mean, until then we traded them back and forth for like 50 cents here, $10 there, depending on the issuance. But it was all fun and games and not too much about money until then. And I think it was in 2017 when suddenly people came in who were willing to pay huge amounts of money for like anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, I heard there'd been a couple cycles back in the day in the Rare Pepe ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some, but I think most were smaller. And then this in 2017 was really big. And so I created a Rare Pepe card that shows Pepe on the moon. I think also Pepe Cash was quite high at the time.
Yeah. Um yeah, and your next one was is I think a pretty good one, the Dank Vader.
Yeah, the Dan Quader. So I mean, as a European, with English not being my native language, um, I never understood that word dank. I've just seen how people are using it to express that something is cool or nice or
Yeah.
whatever. So I we were we were thinking about like word plays where you could have the word dank in it, and at some point I had this dank wader idea. And then I've realized that on one of the movies, The Empire Strikes Back, I thought that could be formed to The Meme Power Strikes Back. Uh, and instead of Star Wars, it's Meme Wars. And of course, it's a Rare Pepe below the black helmet of Lank Vader. I like that one too, but yeah, it's just like a citation of Star Wars, right?
Mm.
And I am Generation Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And why did you choose 777 for the issuance? Just for the memes?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. It had no meaning for me,
Okay.
777. Maybe it has a meaning, but I don't know. So, yeah, I thought these medium issuance cards, that was interesting somehow because it's not too much, it's not too less. So everybody who wants one can get one, at least at the time. And I thought that's the perfect issuance. So more or less around 500 up or down. Yeah. And then also the next card, which is Erdo Pepegan, exists, 414 exist. Um, and that's the story of Erdogan, the Turkish, I would call him a dictator, but maybe people from Turkey would not agree with me. Fact is that he is having something between a democracy and a dictatorship in Turkey. And I mean, I like these political pepes and these political stories. And there is a line below this Pepe that says the events in Turkey have nothing to do with cutting trees or refurbishing a park. And that was a bizarre sentence Erdogan said when there was a coup attempt, probably in 2017 when this card was minted. And
Okay.
it was a completely bizarre sentence. It didn't even make sense. It was 2017, yes. So this sentence didn't even make sense. Yeah. So this card has insane rarity and rare insanity in the mind of Erdo Pepegan. It has, I think it has a typo somewhere, but I don't know. Yeah, I like that one, the Erdo Pepegan.
Yeah, that's cool. I never understood what that thing at the bottom meant, so that's some good context.
Yeah, that's a citation of him, and it's pretty bizarre because it was in context of this coup attempt, and I've read it somewhere, and it was just standing out to be quite bizarre, right?
Yeah, that's cool. And your next one is Null C Pepe.
Yeah, so null C is one of the Bitcoin let's say, contributors or early contributors. That's Gregory Maxwell. And he was having quite a difficult role in around these Bitcoin core contributors. And so he was quite hated by some people at the time, and a controversial figure, I would say. And I thought we should have all these like characters also represented on Rare Pepe. So I created this null C Pepe card. Null C, or Gregory Maxwell, was also very known to be quite aggressive on Twitter towards everybody criticizing him. And he was also dishing out quite a bit. And some people said he was like poisoning Bitcoin as an open source project and should stay away from it. And he was obviously in other projects earlier, which also had where he also had quite a difficult role. So I hope, I mean, I do not know him personally, so maybe this card was a bit too much, but yeah, it's all fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
it's been quite a while, so I'm sure if he was mad, he's over it now, you know.
yeah, I mean, I would send him one if he wants one. And the next card is Luke J.R. Pepe, which could be from a similar from the same series, right? Because Luke J.R. is Luke Dash Jr., also a Bitcoin core developer. And he's very fundamentalistic in many senses. So already as a Bitcoin developer, he was also, of course, against these big blocks and stuff at the time when there was this Bitcoin chain split. And he is a strong Catholic, has very strong Christian belief. And I think he was the first to store Bible verses on the Bitcoin blockchain. I'm not sure if he did store the whole Bible, but quite a lot of it. So that's a bit his personality. And on this Luke J.R. Pepe card, it says, non-core Catholics go to hell. It was the time when we probably discussed another time if Bitcoin Core is the thing, or probably Bitcoin Cash is the thing. And he was, of course, against everything that was not Bitcoin Core. So no non-core Catholics go to hell. He would probably also say non-Catholics go to hell, but so
Yeah,
I mixed these two together.
I mean, it was a very contentious time in the, you know, crypto Bitcoin community.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2017, can't really remember exactly, but it was probably the controversy about Bitcoin Cash, or
Yeah.
probably not
Yeah, it's
BSV.
2017, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah, that was the time when this card was made. Yeah, so there is only one heaven, which is Bitcoin Core, of course, and he's preaching the core gospel all day long.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I always thought it was also just a good looking card too.
yeah, yeah. Maybe his face is a bit bizarre, right? Without having a nose, but
I just think it's I don't know, it really catches you, you know, catches the eye.
yeah. Yeah, and frogs do not have noses, right? Or they have, but not really visible. I mean, I did the same on the other cards with the nose. It was quite difficult to bring real faces into. And then the last card that is on my on my creation list that is visible on Pepe.wtf is Pepe Jeans, and probably that's not too original. I mean, Pepe Jeans is a jeans brand that some people might know in Europe,
I didn't know
and
that.
it was always called Pepe Jeans. I don't know. And always when I thought about Rare Pepe, sometimes these Pepe Jeans came to my mind, and I thought, how would real Rare Pepe Jeans look like? And so I thought, okay, let's create some real Rare Pepe Jeans, and it should be like an ad for the real rare Pepe genes. And you see this, if you look at it closer, you see that on one of the pockets, there's a rare Pepe stitched on it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
I didn't know that there actually was a real jeans company named that. I just thought
yeah,
you were just memeing on there.
yeah, that's probably a European thing, or maybe even a Swiss thing, I don't know. And there's another card I made, which is also a Pepe card. It's a cooperation with Sean Leary, because we were joking in the chat about the flying spaghetti monster.
Oh yeah.
And so he said, but we need to have a FSM Pepe. FSM stands for Flying Spaghetti Monster. And so we were so convinced of that idea that Sean already did mint the token while I was drawing up the picture for it. And so this is a cooperation between me and Sean. So picture is mine, and Sean did mint the token, and we evenly distributed the cards between ourselves. So FSM Pepe is also a card that I helped to create.
Yeah, I thought that one turned out really well too. You know, definitely a cool early card. Um, and I know you're pressed for time. I just thought I'd ask you too, before you go, if you can, like, what your thoughts were on fake rares as that kind of came into emergence.
I mean, I can completely understand that there was like a need to somehow be able to create rare peppers again, because it's creating them is just real fun, and sharing them with other people. And uh, I was also a bit sad when the scientists stopped to allow minting rare peppers. But on the other hand, of course, it's good to somehow bake in that rarity, or to make it something special. And I think fake rares were quite a good restart of it, also calling it fake. So I think that's quite interesting. I see some amazing artworks there as well from different people. I'm not too much into it because I do not really understand the community dynamics it has, but that's probably also, if you're European, you're usually up at different times as the people in North America, and you're probably not always on the same wavelength. And yeah, I mean, I do not really understand the people dynamics behind the fake rare community, and I'm
Mhm.
not too much into it, but there are some amazing cards, of course. I do not really collect them actively, but yeah, I really like them, most of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they've got like it's really turned into an incredible directory. I mean, there's a ton of really talented artists and funny stuff in there. So
yeah, what I fear a bit is that it turns into, or at some point, it became a bit of a similar place like on all of these artist NFT platforms that exist. So I'm a lot in the Tezos ecosystem, and I helped a lot around the first NFT marketplace that started to exist on Tezos, which was Hic Nunc. And
yeah,
you know
I
that one?
used yeah, I used that for a little bit. I only collected a handful on Tezos, but that was the first platform I used, and I think I collected like 5 or 10 pieces. It
Yeah,
was
so
I mean, just remembering the name, like to type it into a browser, I thought was like, I don't know what the deal was, but they should have chosen a better name.
yeah, I mean, Hic et Nunc is, I think it's Latin, and says just here and now in Latin.
Okay.
And yeah, but this was quite a wild NFT marketplace because it was so anti-OpenSea. It was
Hmm.
not like made for marketing or stuff. It was purely about the art, and it was brutally minimalistic, and it attracted a lot of people. And there was quite a wild time in the early Hic et Nunc days, which was very cool and really community driven. Quite a bit similar to Rare Pepe, by the way, which was also quite wild, and people were friendly to each other. there was no real competition, right? People were not really competing on something. It was just mostly for fun and community. And during these early Hic et Nunc days on Tezos, on this Tezos NFT marketplace, there was a similar feeling of a community starting to exist, a wild community that did not too much care about the money. And in the meantime, also in the Tezos NFT world, this topic of money is much more present, and I don't find it as interesting as before. I still collect some Tezos art NFTs from time to time, and I have quite a big collection, and I admire some of the artists there. But unfortunately, like in many places, this became too much of.
That's too bad. I know when I again was tinkering around, I didn't get super serious with it just because I had, you know, I was, just trying to keep up with everything. But so I played around with it a little bit, and that's one thing I did appreciate is that it wasn't like um for artists like during that boom, like minting stuff on Ethereum was really expensive, right? To where that was one of the beauties of Tezos too, besides the advantages that the blockchain has is that it was affordable for artists to be able to go out there, mint, and say that they've published and minted their own work and have it, buy and sell it without like also the crazy transaction fees that were going on at the time in Ethereum too.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the big things, and it created an atmosphere where people were sharing their artworks more than selling them. So a lot of people, of course, were selling their artworks, but for quite low prices. No way to be compared with the prices people paid on Super Rare for stuff. And most of these artists were immediately buying. If they sold something, they were immediately buying stuff from other artists just because they liked it or because they just enjoyed this community and this interaction that exists when like selling and buying NFTs. And this reminded me of a lot, and it had a lot in common with the early Rare Pepe times, where people were just trading the stuff for fun and were exchanging ideas and pictures and things like that. So these two like moments in NFT history, like the early Hic et Nunc days and the early Rare Pepe days, they have a lot in common of this like community sense, wild, artistic space. Yeah, and sometimes I miss that a bit, and I'm not sure, as I'm not too deep into fake rares, I will not judge what's going on there, but like my impression from the outside is that it's also a bit like these functions that exist on other NFT places also came into this space, where it is a lot about fame, money, things like that. And I'm not too interested in those aspects.
Yeah, I that's one thing I thought was cool when I was watching, like I wasn't around with the OG Rare Pepes when that was, still a thing. But what I witnessed in I thought was really cool as fake rares was taking off is watching, kind of what you're talking about is like artists they'd mint to work and then they'd sell and then they'd be able to buy other cards, and build up their collection through publishing, I thought that was kind of a cool dynamic. Um, but yeah,
That,
I do think that I think it's sad to hear that Tezos has lost a little bit of that spirit that it had because um I thought it was really a cool, like you said, it had a cool vibe then, like really, you know, uh, I guess less of a commercial vibe to it, and again, just a wide variety of art. Like I remember when I was playing around with it, like I was able to get like like a low edition of one of the art blocks artists who does like 3D stuff. I got like one of his 1 of 10 or 1 of 20 pieces for like it was cheap, like $15 or something. I mean,
mhm.
like that's what it really emphasizes, basically having fun and not not being, you know, a zero sum game in terms of, I don't know, like it got really crazy during that run with on Ethereum particularly,
Yeah. And in the early Tezos days, it was also that there was by the end of 2020, there was this huge discussion about um, environmental concerns. So there was a group of artists that said we cannot mint on Ethereum. It's just not right to waste so much energy in order to produce blocks. And it was just at the time that Tezos got ready to mint NFTs. It was not possible before 2021. But then it became possible, and I was already a lot in the Tezos ecosystem. I was super happy to see that it's possible to mint NFTs now. And of course, I had to try it immediately. And then I was so happy to see that I was pinging a couple of people I knew from Rare Pepe history if they want to try to mint on Tezos. And I sent them some Tezos because you could send Tezos onto any Twitter account. You could use that's still possible.
I didn't know you could do that. That's cool.
Yes, so there's the Kukai wallet, which unlocks with your Twitter authentication. And so you can send Tezos to any Twitter name. So what I did is then when this very early first version of Hic Nunc arrived, I sent a couple of tests to a couple of people I knew, mainly from Rare Pepe, but probably also some others, and told them, hey, it's possible to mint on Tezos. Come on, try it out. And I think I sent some to Joe Looney. He tried it out at some point. And I sent some to Art Gnome, which was
Mhm.
also around in the Rare Pepe community to some extent, at least. And this tweet of mine was seen by Quasimondo, Mario Klingenmann, which is a German artist, which, I mean, he brought in a lot of other artists at the time into Tezos because he was seeing that tweet, he was trying it out, and he was so convinced that he was telling it everybody who was like into NFTs. And he also had like, or was in contact with these people who had these environmental concerns. And so suddenly at the beginning of NFT on Tezos, a lot of people came in, which were artists with like artistic track records and which did mint amazing things. And the longer these marketplaces existed on Tezos, the more people came in who were probably better salesmen than artists.
Oh yeah,
And
that makes
that's
sense.
probably what happens in these. Probably that's happening always, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because I know on other chains like Ethereum and Solana, after a first few initial projects kind of it laid the groundwork, then basically the grifters come in for the easy money. I mean,
Yeah.
what was your thought in terms, in the we saw that big blow up of like that PFP hype cycle, like Bored
Yeah.
Apes and all that stuff. What were your thoughts in watching that play out?
So I mean, I was still minting rare pepes, I think, when CryptoPunks came out, and I was even lucky to get some of them because they were free at the time. You could just mint them, the first 10,000 or the 10,000 CryptoPunks. You could just mint them. So I minted 6, I think. Then probably bought additional 2 or 3 over the next couple of months, and then at some point sold them all for like $200 each, which was a mistake in hindsight, of course. But that one I found interesting because I mean, it was one of the first, and I think everything is on chain. So you could reconstruct the CryptoPunks from on-chain information, which I found quite interesting. And but and then I also played around with CryptoKitties because that was end of 2017, and I thought, wow, cats, internet, blockchain, and complete people going nuts in this hype cycle. This thing will just blow up, and it really did for 1 week, and then it was dead. And after that, I really lost interest in checking all of these PFP projects because there were just too many. And at the time when the Bored Apes came up, I already lost track of all of these PFP projects. And I still think that Bored Apes was just a very clever marketing scheme at some point. Yeah, of course,
I
I
mean,
missed it, but
well, I mean, I think it's more than clever marketing. There was like now we know through the lawsuits that emerged over the last year or so, like it was always like we always had innuendo and whatnot, but now we know that there were these backhand deals with celebrities that were influencing or promoting Bored Apes where they were getting compensated without disclosing that, right? So you
yeah.
know that really famous cringe scene of Jimmy Fallon and Paris Hilton that was captured in a fake rare by Viva La Vandal. It like that like both of them were given like the Bored Apes for free, and there may have been money too, but that was through a deal with MoonPay and
Mhm.
a bunch of these other celebrities. It also looks like there's probably quite a bit of wash trading and some other stuff going on. But um, I mean, regardless, I mean, it like they got there, but how they got there was not exactly organic, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. There was a lot of it was managed to put it that way, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, marketing really in a wider sense where you make sure it could. But I mean, I guess that same scheme was tried over and over again after Bored Apes as well.
Yeah.
And uh, they are still probably the most successful in that. I don't know. And I think meanwhile, I had a lot of friends which were completely not into blockchain or were just slowly starting to understand and to try a bit. And they always asked me about these NFTs because some of them I told these stories of Rare Pepe that you could like sell these frog pictures. And I mean, people from outside do not really understand what we do. They don't believe it, right? And they were asking me about which NFTs to buy. And I said, I mean, there's only a couple of NFTs I would buy, and those are the very first ones which existed, which is like Rare Pepe and CryptoPunks and stuff like that. So either they are too expensive or maybe too complicated for some of the people to get. Like Rare Pepe is unfortunately a bit complicated sometimes to get. But I wouldn't recommend anybody buying any other PFPs because it's just like copy paste. It's owls, now it's turtles, now it's bears,
It was
and
I
I'm pretty sure there are uh, some offices somewhere where you have like five guys sitting together and pumping out new projects like every week with a website and
yeah.
a contract and some pictures.
I mean, and a lot of these it was so lazy where they're reusing the same contract code and they were
Yeah,
using Fiverr art. You know, what I mean, it's just like it was just like blatant grabs.
yeah,
And hey, you know, they got away with it, and a lot of people made life-changing money. So,
yeah,
you know, I mean, they took advantage of the moment. Like we'll never,
yeah.
I don't think we'll ever see that again. Like that.
Yes. And nobody, I mean, people will lose interest in that stuff and nobody will trade that stuff in a couple of years because it's just one more of these copy coins. I mean, there are good NFT projects which are not sold anymore or which are not traded anymore, even though they are good. I
Yeah.
remember there was this project called Audio Glyphs.
Mhm.
Um, there was a other of these glyph projects. I forgot the name before, which was a visual one, and then there was audio glyphs, which was an auditive one. So it's like,
Autoglyphs was
oh
that
yeah,
window.
of
Yeah.
course, audio glyphs. And then
Mhm.
there was audio glyphs, which was a similar idea, but with sounds. So there was like some generative sound baked into it. And I find those things very fascinating. I mean, all of the generative art NFTs, I really admire that and like that and collect that a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, but these audio glyphs, for example, you cannot trade them anymore. I mean, because they're just worthless. I mean, you can buy them, but you cannot sell them.
I remember being really amazed at the time, and I was, I knew that the PFP boom would end because, you had like these 10,000 collections were selling out instantly and then they're not just selling out, but then they'd go up in value like really fast. Like I knew that couldn't last because one, that's like 10,000 times the amount of money that was being spent on it is a lot of money. But there is no barrier to entry, and like we were talking about, the effort required to duplicate and instead of apes, it'd be turtles or raccoons or foxes. I mean, it's just yeah, I mean, it was like there's infinite supply essentially
Yes.
at near zero cost. It was going to catch up with it. And the other reason I thought it was doomed is that the modern PFPs and even some of the NFTs, unless they're exceptional, like if you're approaching that from a investment thing, if you're not just buying it because you like the art, but if you're buying it as an investment, which a lot of people were mixing up the two, right? So if you're
Hmm.
buying modern stuff for an investment, well, you're betting against the possibility that someone's going to create something even better, like more
Yes.
amazing, and
Which
and
has,
make yours, yeah,
yeah,
which I
which has
mean,
a meaning, for example. Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
mean, that's exactly my point about these PFPs. Everybody knows that some of these PFPs are only bought because the people buying them hope to sell them
yeah,
later for more, right? So why should I buy one of these? Nobody will buy these things later for more because everybody knows, right? So if they have like a special meaning or if they have like a special function, that's a different thing, right? So if they give you access to some kind of special club or whatever, or a real club, okay, that might be a different thing. I mean, that was probably a bit of the success of the Bored Apes, by the way, because they called themselves a club and
yeah.
I suggested that you might have access to some special whatever.
I think the other thing that they did really well is, you remember in the ICO hype cycles and whatnot,
Mhm.
like there was always a promise yet to be delivered in those ICOs. They always had a white paper and a roadmap and
Mhm.
something that they're going to deliver in the future. You're never buying for what was on the table right now, really, right?
Mhm.
And that's one thing I think Bored Apes did well is that like they weren't just selling Bored Apes, that like they started promising like this other stuff, like they're talking about games and this and that and the other. So there's all this stuff that's not here right now, but
Mhm.
basically giving people FOMO to buy into the opportunity to like again, and it seems silly because why would you give a ton of money to someone who's not never developed a video game to make the most amazing video game, right?
Mhm.
Like that's generally not a good recipe, right, for success. But anyway, the your point though is they did a really good job on, like you said, like making it like a community, like emphasizing that. And I think they had professional community managers, I assume. But
Yeah.
I think the other part, yeah, is that they had the promise of more stuff in the future always, and they're still doing that. They still are promising more stuff in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think but also if you see these prices, I mean, do you really want to pay 50,000 for a picture of an ape? I mean, even if you like it, but is it really? Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, and that was the other thing I thought was really interesting. Watching the new stuff blow up is, like things come and go out of favor. Like trends come and go, and to bet, like you said, bet 50,000 or 100,000 on an ape picture. Well, like what are the odds that that's still going to be the in thing in 3 years or 5 years or what have you? Because a lot
Yeah.
of that was, you know,
I mean, the Bored Apes will probably make it even into 5 years, but what always will make it is the first of everything, right? And
yeah.
or the very first few of everything. So that's what Rare Pepe is, right? So we were just very early in playing with all this stuff. We were not calling it NFTs because technically they're not non-fungible, but we were doing the same stuff. And yeah, for me, it was really a huge experience. I mean, I learned a lot, and yeah, it was really fun. And I mean, I still enjoy it. Unfortunately, I cannot go to the Rare Pepe Fest in Paris in October, pretty soon,
Oh yeah.
couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I'm bummed I can't make it either. That sounds like a pretty amazing event. And I
Yeah,
Scarce City just released the listing for the auction. There's just some incredible stuff that's going to be sold off there too. And you know, they've got events with the scientists and whatnot. So
yeah, and it would be so close to me, only 4 hours by train, and I was in Paris 2 times this year, so it would be extremely close, but it's impossible this time of the year. So that would have been nice to meet some of these people in real life once, but I guess there will be more occasions in the future. And maybe we too meet once
yeah,
at a Rare Pepe Fest conference,
yeah, that'd be fun.
festival, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of covered a lot of ground. I mean, I guess one thing I'd circle back is like, did you have a favorite rare Pepe or two that you know, like looking back in the directory? I know you were because you were such an early part of it.
Yeah, I mean, from of course Nakamoto would still be a holy grail to get, but probably I was too dumb to take it when it was possible. But I mean, one of my favorites is of course Hair Pepe, and I do not even know why. I mean, Hair Pepe was a meme by itself. Um, Somehow it was like a meme inside Rare Pepe. Always felt like that, and it gives you access to a very exclusive club, by the way. So if you have a hair Pepe, you have access to the salon, and only 1,000 people are accepted there. So I think hair Pepe is one of my personal favorites.
Yeah,
And
I'd
then
agree.
maybe,
I think Hair Pepe is like it's iconic. It stands out. Like you always remember it once you've seen it once, you know, in a series one. And anyway,
yeah,
yeah, it's great.
it's a legend, right? And then I
Mhm.
also like Joe Looney Bin Laden. It's
Yeah,
called Joe Looney Bin. And I think it was, can't remember, probably who made it? Was it
that was
Dan
a Dan
Darkblood?
Dark Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I think he was angry at Joe Looney at the time. So because they were like disciplining him in the chat. So he was angry at him, as far as I remember. And so he created this card there to like express his anger towards Joe Looney. And it's so cheaply made that it's just perfect. So
yeah. I
I
got that
like
real.
that a lot. I
Yeah,
still have one and I will keep it.
yeah, that's cool. It's a you know that's a I think that's 100 supply card too. So those are
Yes,
hard to get.
yes.
Yeah. So we've kind of covered a lot of ground. I mean, is there anything that you wanted to cover or any thoughts on the NFTs going forward or any projects you're working on?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, I'm around in the Rare Pepper chats from time to time, so every week, couple of times, and I'm always open to chat to other Rare Pepper enthusiasts. So hit me up if there's something, or if somebody's in Switzerland of the Rare Pepe fans. That would be nice. I also met a couple of Swiss Rare Pepe fans and
Oh,
makers, which was quite interesting and funny. And there's really something connecting people who are interested in Rare Pepe.
I think we're a special breed, right?
Yeah, somehow, yes. Those who are not there for just the money, they
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been a real pleasure talking to you today, Janko. Again, like exceptional catalog of cards and a real pleasure.
Thank you. I also enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for the occasion talking to you. And yeah, hopefully we can meet one day and trade Rare Pepe cards from phone to phone or something.